Hey everyone, this is Trent from Extreme Rigs, and we have a lot of CaseLabs cases to talk to you about today. Some of you may have seen this one before. This is my TX10-D case, which is featured on my Project Thief build. It's absolutely enormous and has two full computers in it. See, this is the side with the panels on. You can see this huge window here. There's actually a case in there. It's somewhat unplugged right now because we've been taking a huge photo shoot. But this case can pretty much fit anything you want in it. It can fit two HPTX motherboards. It can fit oodles of radiators. 140.9 in the top, we've got a 560 at the bottom, a 360 there. It can take 4 power supplies, rack gear, it can pretty much do anything. It has 36 5¼ inch bays, as well as another 3 in the pedestal. So it's just a huge monster of a case, and if you're wanting to build the most powerful computer, then this will fit your bill without a problem. So now Derek's going to come talk about his case, the ST10.
Hey everyone, this is Derek with my build, Ology from your. The ST10 has been out for quite a while, but we would like to preview it and show everyone just how it is before we move on to the new Merlin cases. It has support for 17 5¼ inch bays, as well as 4 PS2 slots, 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. Supports up to the HPTX motherboard. As you can see, the SR2 in there takes up the entire tray, and still has plenty of room to mount a reservoir or whatever else you would like to in the internal chamber. The 2 upper chambers, they can support up to 2 560 rads on each side. As well, the flex bay can also put an additional radiator, and as you can see, there is currently a 480 in there. Just to get an idea of what that looks like.
Everyone, so these are the new Merlin cases. Some of you may have seen the CaseLabs SM8. This has been out for a couple of weeks, maybe at most a month now. And this is the new kind of single-wide tower case from CaseLabs. As you can see, although it's single-wide, it is still fairly wide. And in terms of what it supports, it has a general kind of normal-sized ATX or eATX tray. It supports 480s top and bottom, and you can mount your power supply at the top or the bottom or both if that's what you want to do. You can also mount another radiator in the front flex bays. The flex bays are basically triple 5¼ inch bays. You can see 3 of them here, and those 3 could be made into a 360, or 2 could be a 240, or whatever you want to do. So that's the SM8. The 2 brand new cases, on the other hand, that almost no one has seen or played with yet, are the SM5, which is this guy, and the ST10. Some of the naming convention, the numbers on the case names always refer to the number of slots the case has. So if you see the SM5 here, you already see it's a little smaller than the SM8. You can see it only has 5 slots. It's for m-ATX boards only. And so that's really what gives it the difference in height. The rest of the functionality is the same. You still get a power supply mount top and bottom, and then you get the tray. So you can mount, typically most people would only use 1 power supply for m-ATX. You can mount either the top or bottom and then have a full 360. This does not support a 480 like the SM8. However, you could put a 360 in the front too. So if you didn't have a power supply, it would fit 3 360s. But obviously you've got to find a spot for your power supply somewhere. As an m-ATX case, it is still fairly large. It is a little smaller than the M8, but it is still larger than what most people would expect for an m-ATX case. The absolutely brand new case, that aren't even prototype photos of this case yet, so Jim's been very nice to send us one to look at. This is the ST10. And the ST10 is basically the same depth and the same width as the SM8. The main difference is that it supports xl-atx motherboards. in the case, we don't actually have an xl-atx motherboard. So we have ST10 workstation motherboard, the dual CPU. This is actually SSI, CEB, or some weird format. But essentially you can see that this does not fit on the tray. Really this needs the HBTX tray to be fully covered by it. So you can see the trays coming down here, and that's because xl-atx is basically the depth of a regular ATX or eATX board, but it has 2 extra slots. So this is 10 slots all the way down. So if you have an xl-atx motherboard, like for example the X79 Big Bang, or the X79 Classified, or some of the earlier boards, you would need this case. You could not put it in this case, the SM8 or the SM5. Of course you can go bigger. This isn't the only case that supports it. But this is the smallest CaseLabs case that does support xl-atx. And that's the same with the SM8. This is the smallest case that supports ATX. As with all the cases, they have the removable motherboard trays. All you do is remove these self-retained screws, just unscrew it, and the board slides out. It makes it very easy for setting up everything. You can set it up on the side, you can even leak test, and then put it in. Again, like the SM8 and the SM5, you get, ooh, didn't expect that, probably getting lifted by the cover. Again, you get 2 power supply options. You don't have to use them. You know, if you do, you're losing a bit of radiator space. And these days, with efficiencies and big power supplies being available, most people just choose to use one. On the back side of all these cases, again, you have some pretty standard CaseLabs features on the single wide cases, like Derek's ST10 would also have this. You have hard drive mounts. You can see here you have 2 little 2.5-inch mounts, so you could fit 2 SSDs in each of these, and then 2 3.5-inch mounts. So you could fit 4 SSDs, 2 hard drives in the back of the case here. And that's really why these cases are so wide, because there's so much space back here for cable routing and for hard drives. Obviously the smaller cases have a bit less room. So if we take a look at the SM5, you can see this one obviously doesn't have the same space. It only has 2 3.5-inch bays, and then interestingly right here you see there's no SSD mount there, and that's because you can see here there's the I/O plate. This is an optional extra. It gives you USB 3 and audio jacks. So if you have that, then there's no space left for the 2.5-inch SSD. So just bear that in mind. If you're getting the front panel mount, you will lose the SSD. However, CaseLabs sells an accessory to turn a 3.5-inch bay into 2 2.5 inches. So don't fret, you can still mount your hard drives back here. Of course, if you have a lot of drives, if you have some kind of workstation, or you're trying to build a home server, you can buy extra flex bay mounts. Each of these triple bays can be converted to take 4 hard drives or 8 SSDs or any combination thereof. So there's a lot of flexibility in the case. You can pretty much set it up however you want. The real question is just deciding which case is for me. Do I want something from the Merlin line, the single wide? If so, do I want just net mini ATX board? Do I want just support for regular kind of ATX or extended ATX? Or do I want support for the xl-atx? And that's really the primary decision that's going to drive you to say, okay, which one of these 3 cases do I want? The price difference between each one is not that large. I think this one is $350, this is $380, and this is $420, I think. So you're talking about, $30, $40 in between each step. And if you want future expandability, you can go for the largest case and say, well, I only have a mini ATX board, it'll still fit in there. So, you don't have to get the exact right size. It does depend on what you want to do.
As CaseLabs is famous for its removable motherboard trays, I would do a comparison showing the different sizes, slots, and what one would work best for you. We have the HPTX one that is available in all the trays that have H in the name, or all the cases that have H in the name. This is the Rampage 4 Extreme unit. You can see there's plenty of room around for whatever you want to put in there. And this is with an HPTX motherboard, which as you can see takes up the entire tray. The ST10 comes with an xl-atx tray, which as you can see is extra compared to a standard ATX design. Well, this isn't standard, this is extended. Currently there aren't a lot of motherboards that support xl-atx, but there are some, and so this has that option open for you. The SM5 has a standard matx layout, and of course we don't have a board to show that, but that's what that's for, and it has 5 slots to go with the name. The SM8 has an extended ATX, and that is a 590 mounted there to show length. We wanted to do a quick comparison between the different windows, colors, and sizes that CaseLabs currently offers. Down here we have the XL window, it's clear, and in this one we have the XL window and it's gray. As you can see, it's quite dark. Even with LED lighting, it still is quite dark, so if you are wanting to show it off, you might want to go with the clear. In the SM5 we have the small window, just giving you an idea of how small it is compared to the XL window.
Okay, this is the CaseLabs SM5. This is the mini ATX version of the Merlin series. And as you can see, it is the smallest case CaseLabs makes. You can see the window there, and the 5-slot tray with the 2 power supplies. And if we compare this to a fairly standard, old, basic ATX case. This is an Antec 300. You can usually get these pretty cheap on sale, with 3 drive bays, full ATX, 1 power supply, no water cooling support. But you can see it is about the same depth as the SM5. It's a good couple inches shorter, and it's much more narrow. So if you have a standard ATX kind of mid-tower case, and you're thinking, oh, I'll buy the CaseLabs SM5, do not expect it to be smaller. Most people think mini ATX and they think small. This is not small by most mini ATX cases. Like most things CaseLabs do, they are larger than most cases that support similar motherboards. However, the trade-off that you're getting is a lot more water cooling support and a lot of other features, a lot of nice things. So you have to decide if that is worth it to you. There have been some changes with Merlin that we noticed in compared to the Magnum series that both Derek and I have. For one thing, the hinges have changed. The older hinges were more bulky. However, they still have the same system to lift the doors up. So you open the door, you lift it up, and it comes right off. They all have the interchangeable windows. And one thing that's nice, after getting used to a CaseLabs case, you start to notice things like a lot of other manufacturers have screws on the outside to hold the window in. CaseLabs doesn't do that. It's still removable, it's still interchangeable, but they have the nut on the inside, and the threaded bolt is kind of inserted into the door itself. It's physically kind of punched in or welded on. I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but that is a very nice feature, and it makes for a much cleaner looking case. The other thing to note with CaseLabs cases, at least in the Merlin series, possibly the others too, I'm not 100% sure, they can all be converted to reverse ATX. So you have to do some, taking apart of the case, flip a couple of panels around. But it's all designed to be rotated over so that you can have the window on the other side with the board facing the other way. It's very easily configurable. The other issue that people talk about with CaseLabs is, oh my god, there's no dust filters. Jim, who's the head of CaseLabs, always gives the same answer to this. He compares it to a race car, a custom race car where, you know, you're designing it to be exactly the way you want it to be. And if he sold you and included filters in the cost, that's just pushing the cost up. But these cases are so flexible and so reconfigurable that he would have to include filters for every single possible setup, which is just kind of really cost prohibitive. Because you could mount radiators in the front, you can mount radiators in the top, you can mount radiators in the bottom, and there's space for a fan on the back too. So, and in this particular case, you only have 360 mounts, but in the other cases you have, for example, the SM8, you have a 420 or a 480. So, what size are you going to make the filter? So that's really kind of Jim's point of view, and some people don't like that. I kind of get it, because with my case, it's so ridiculously big and so configurable that there is no way you could do that. With the SM5, it's a bit more practical, but again, know that going in. You will not get dust filters from Jim, and a lot of people have made workarounds for that. You can buy aftermarket filters. You could even get custom filters made by MCPlex if you wanted. So there are options out there. Don't let that necessarily put you off, and don't expect anything to change on that front either. So this is the SM5. Like I said, I did expect it to be a bit smaller. That was a surprise to me. However, you have to bear in mind that this really is just an SM8 that they shrunk a bit of the depth. So you go from a 480 maximum to a 360 maximum, and then the height is just shrunk, basically the height of 3 PCI slots. The cost is $350. It has 10 bays here, and in total size, it's really very close to the M8. So if you are considering this case, but you're not sure if you want to go to mini ATX, check out the M8. It's 4 inches wider. This is about 11 inches there. So it comes out to about there. But for just a little bit more space, you will get the full ATX support and up to 5 radiators, while this really has a maximum of 3. So do consider that. It's a good option. But if you're definite you want to go to mini ATX with a good amount of water cooling capability, and you're definite you don't want to go ATX, this might just be the case for you.
So this is CaseLabs' new SM8 case. It is currently released, and I believe it's going. The base price is $380, which is in a direct comparison with Silverstone's long, award-winning TJ07 case. They are quite similar in size. Length-wise, they are very similar. The SM8 is a little bit wider. See there, it's just a tad bit wider. The big difference with them is motherboard support. The SM8 has 8 slots, which is quite nice for extended ATX boards, that like the Rampage 4 Extreme, and if you want to do quad SLI. While the TJ07 has 7. Unfortunately, the SM8 only has a motherboard tray suited for ATX and extended ATX and anything smaller. Unlike the TJ07, which has support for SSI, IEEB, that the Skull Trail and Z9 motherboards have. The SM8 has 11 flex bays, not flex bays, but 11 5¼ drive bays, while the TJ07 has 7. Both cases you can mount a radiator in the front. However, it is a lot easier with the SM8, as you just have to buy a flex bay. Do that with the TJ07, you have to do some hard modding. It can support a 240 in the top and a 480 in the bottom, which is probably the most common setups you've seen. The SM8 can support two 480s, one on the top, one on the bottom, and whatever you want to put in the flex bay as well. The SM8 also has a standard 120mm fan in the back, while the TG07 has 92mm, which is kind of odd. To show length, we have a 590 mounted in the SM8. As you can see, it goes pretty much to the very end of the tray. I have a Mars, which is similar in length. It has support for dual power supplies, as we talked about earlier. Dual power supplies in a case that isn't the biggest case, like the TX10 or the STH10, it might be kind of silly as power supplies are getting bigger and graphics cards are getting more efficient. However, it does have the support for it, and you don't have to do any modding, it's all ready to go. The TG07 has support for two, but it's quite crowded under there, and you would lose the radiator. So here we have the ST10, which no one has seen any pictures of, or and the details are pretty slim. Jim was nice enough to give us one to look at and review. The big difference between STH10, which you guys have commonly seen, is it does not have support for HPTX. And as this is a prototype model, it may be integrated in the future. Also, this case does not have individual heat chambers like the STH10 does. It has no mid-plate, it's just all one thing altogether. It has support for 480 in the bottom, 480 on the top, and you can throw a 480 in the flex base, as it does have 14. The motherboard tray has support for xl-atx, which isn't the most common, but there are some other boards out there, like the X79 Big Bang. To show length, we have a 590 and a 460 mounted in here. The 590 comes to the end of the motherboard tray out a little bit. The motherboard currently in there does not appear like it fits in, because it doesn't. It's the Asus Z9, and it's not meant for this size. If you want to use this motherboard as well as a motherboard like Skull Trail, you have to get an HPTX if you want to mount it completely. This one, the ST10 has support for a power supply on the top and a power supply on the bottom, both horizontally, while the STH10 has support for 4, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, mounted vertically. Both the motherboard trays are of course removable. If you would like HPTX support but don't want to get something as big as the STH10, there is the SM8, which has support for HPTX, and it's just basically missing one of the chambers. That's the STH10. This one starts at 420, and this one starts at 570. So it's quite a big difference, but there's a lot more space to put in this one. Of course, that is not including accessories, and for most CaseLabs cases, accessories are essential.
Okay, everyone, this has been the Stren and Derek's CaseLabs preview of the Merlin series. You can find out more about our builds at many of the different forums. Derek's build is called Aldri Fornoy. I'm not sure if that's pronounced right. Mine is Project Thief. And we'll have a lot more reviews coming for you. So like my Facebook page, Extreme Rigs, follow our builds, and if you like what you've seen here today, go tell Jim at CaseLabs that you want to buy one, and tell him that we sent you.
If you have any suggestions for him on the 2 prototype cases, be sure to shoot him an email or PM him on the forums.
Yeah, CaseLabs has a sub-forum at overclock.net, so it's easy to reach CaseLabs there if you want to submit ideas or questions on these cases. So that's it from us.
Thanks for watching, and have a good day.